It has been a while, Leafs fans. What's the last time this happened? Is this 1993? The Gilmore era? But this series reminds me of something a little bit closer to recent memory. The 2012-2013 lockout season when Toronto faced the Boston Bruins in round 1. Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, Lucic, Chara, Tyler Seguin, Dougie Hamilton, and of course, Jaromir Jagr, Bruins legend. Meanwhile, the Leafs core 4 was Phil Kessel, Nazem Kadri, JVR, and captain Dion Phaneuf, who was struggling at scoring. He had just one goal in this series. It went to Game 7. They were playing Boston at home. Boston made a good jump of it. They got the first goal in past Reimer. This would be Matt Barkowski's only goal of the playoffs. But then Franzen makes it 1-1. And Franzen strikes again, looking like he could be the hero of the game. Now Phil Kessel's going to make it 3-1 with Kadri by his side, making it a 2-goal game for Toronto. And then that duo strikes again, making it a 3-goal lead.
On the other way, another catch, rebound, score! Kessel shot, rebound, Kadri, and it.
Surely, at this point, you're thinking Toronto is going to move on. But then Lucic finds Horton, getting one back for Boston. And now Lucic scores with 1:22 seconds left in the third period. This is when Toronto buckles down, plays defensively, and closes out this game. No.
Goes around with a high shot and score! Bruins have scored to tie the game!
They tie the game with less than a minute left, and you're now feeling sick to your stomach. Boston has all the momentum, but there's no way Toronto is going to allow them to score 4 consecutive goals.
Never got all the way through. Now Marchand with it. Hands it off. Bergeron shot. Rebound. Chance in front. Seguin is there. Puck comes free. Score!
You would be wrong because Bergeron and Marchand puts this series to sleep in a heartbreaking loss for the Leafs. They shake hands. Boston goes on to go to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they lose against the Chicago Blackhawks. At the time, a lot of individuals said that if Toronto had moved on, they would have surely beaten the Chicago Blackhawks in the finals. But it was not their year. Will this year be different for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Will they go all the way this year? Let's talk about it.
You know, to establish maybe yourself here in the NHL.
Is it time?
Is it time?
Is it time? Is it?
It is.
It is.
It is not time. The reason why this game reminded me of that Boston game is not because the Leafs dug deep, reversed the roles, and moved on to find their path to the finals. When the Leafs were down 4-1 in this game, they gave up. This is not going to be a traditional recap video from Whiskeylung. I'm not going to do what I usually do and present this game as if you haven't already watched it. The Leafs are now disqualified from the 25-26 Stanley Cup playoffs, and I have to say that I feel like a Leafs fan. I'm not a Leafs fan, but I know how this feels now. This is frustrating. What we saw tonight is frustrating. I can commiserate with you. Let's quickly go through the goals, and I'll kind of go over the pace of this game and how it felt. But for added context, I wanted to see a Canadian final. I don't like the Florida Panthers. They have a couple of players that I like and respect, but they're not the underdogs. You know, they've got Brad Marchand on the team, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, players that have a reputation in the league and not a good one. Anyway, before we get into the recap, can you do me a favor? Can you subscribe? I'd love to have you as part of the community. We're well on our way to hitting 14,000 subscribers. This is huge. Still haven't really been at this for a year, right? We've come a long way. If you're already subscribed, hit that like button. Helps me out with, I think, something. Engagement? I don't know. Something. So let's look at this game through the lens of knowing, the Leafs already lost. The opening faceoff, the fans believed. They were cheering the opening faceoff. The fans, they believed. They thought that this was their game to win, their series to win, their year. And you heard it. The energy was good in the building tonight. This was not on the fans. I was hearing a lot of, this is a depression fan base. The Leafs talk a lot about noise. They talk about the bad things that their fans contribute. They don't say that the fans are another member of the team. And it even goes as high as Berube saying that they need to cancel out the noise. So I get that. I get that there's an element there. I don't think it's fair to say that about professional athletes saying that the fans are what's holding them back from winning. I don't buy it.
What goes through your mind when you see some fans leaving or hearing boos in the middle of such an important game?
I mean, I don't think we gave them much reason to stick around, so.
Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, Austin.
Although it is very apparent that this is a highly emotional team. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, good energy in the building, and Nylander appears to put in the first shot of the game for the Leafs.
Nylander up high, along the line, to the net, roll through, Nylander, oh!
I was positive this was in. Then Lawton gets an opportunity, amazing opportunity, but Bob is sharp on this one. We now get a glimpse of the first train wreck of the night. Justin Bieber in the crowd, bobbing his head to a beat of whatever song is playing in his head while wearing a waffle cone bucket hat. Whatever your opinion is of Justin Bieber, I don't know. Is he okay? And now Lorentz gets an opportunity to warm up Bobrovsky a little bit. And that's it for the first period. It seems like Toronto has something going for them, right? Shots on goal were 8-7 for the Panthers in the first period, a pretty equal game in terms of shots. That doesn't happen in the second period. Second period starts, we see Stoli on the bench, and then a really scary moment. Official Chris Rooney gets clipped in the face with the blade of Mikola's stick. Woof. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking officials should be wearing full face shields. Yikes. And damn, that is a lot of blood. I was worried about this guy. He leaves the ice on his own 2 feet, but man, was I happy to hear that the cut was over his eye and this didn't catch him in the eye. And there's probably a good metaphor for like eye for an eye or salt in your eye or something like that anyway, because after Rooney gets hit in the above the eye with the stick, it completely falls apart for Toronto. Seth Jones gets a goal. A pinch here, Riley takes the bait. He does not follow the puck down the ice. Jones has a 2-on-1. He guesses correctly and takes the shot. Once he is given the space that he's afforded and his partner gets cut off, Jones makes no mistake. 1-0 for Florida. And then Lundell makes it 2-0. Marchand does some strong forechecking here. The Panthers keep it in. Woll coughs up a big rebound and McCabe can't get to his guy quick enough. 2-0. And now Gadjovich, a turnover in the neutral zone. Tavares sells his team down the river here. He dishes it off to a guy that's already overwhelmed. Bad decision. Gadjovich pops it in and we are 3-0. The third period starts. I was thinking at this point, if they still have a chance, if they get a goal, if they regain momentum, it's often said a 3-goal lead is a deceiving lead. It makes you a little bit too relaxed at times. And what happens? Domi makes it 3-1.
McMahon quickly, they kind of want to change. Domi in, scores!
This was a beautiful read by McMahon, catches Florida on a bad change, throws it to Domi, and we have some energy in the house. You can feel the momentum change at this point. You could feel like the Maple Leafs can run with this type of momentum, take themselves out of the miasma of depression and just run with it. But this happens.
Over the line, it's run by Marchand across the front of the net. Lundell after it. Marchand there with Luostarinen.
Yeah, Luostarinen makes it 4-1 for Florida. 47 seconds after the Domi goal. The air is completely sucked out of the building. Woll was not tight on his posts here. Lazy. He's going to eat that one. Shots are now 27-14 for Florida. And it somehow seems like Toronto only has mild interest in trying to crack the Florida zone and set things up. And then before you know it, it's 5-1. Reinhart has all the time he needs to throw it into the net off of faceoff. No one seems to have urgency on this play, and Woll might not even see the puck coming. Fans are now piling out of the barn. Jerseys are thrown onto the ice. Beers are being dumped onto the players on the Toronto bench. You're seeing security stacking up behind Toronto's bench. A fan even throws his jersey onto the ice during active play, which is pretty bad. And then almost poetically, but in like a for sale, baby shoes never worn type way of poetics, Brad Marchand nets an empty net goal, making it 6-1 and drawing parallels to the games where Toronto has lost against Boston, and Marchand was at the forefront of that. This was just, it's a pathetic effort by the Maple Leafs in a huge game, maybe the biggest games of lots of these players' careers. This doesn't get to happen for a lot of players, you know? Just really disappointing. That's the end of the game. Handshake lineup goes down. A lot of good games being said. And then you have to unpack this. What are you feeling at this point? Auston Matthews is interviewed after the game. I want to make sure I get this quote right. He said, "I just thought we had too many passengers throughout the rest of the game." And that tells me a lot. It tells me all I need to know. For that to happen even at the third period when they're down 3-0, that's unacceptable. For that to happen anywhere, regular season, playoffs, even if that isn't true, even if they aren't passengers on the team, even if he's saying it, thinking it, there is something wrong in that dressing room. They're a highly emotional team. Maybe the pressure of the fans is too much for certain individuals on this team. Maybe some of them are too plugged in, but there are so many other things at work here. I'm sure players are, working through injuries, Matthews included. Like I said, these are professional athletes. They don't like to lose. They're not going to try to lose. But if there's resentment, if there's feelings of distrust in the locker room, that's a bad seed, man. And I think this year, just like every other year that Toronto goes out in the playoffs, they have to rethink the composition of the team. Certainly, Marner is not returning next season. If he returns, I don't know. Maybe there's something we don't know. Is it somebody else in the locker room? Marner seemed pretty passionate, but he also looked like he didn't sweat a drop when he was yelling at his teammates saying, "We've got to get in there and fight, guys." Let me know what you think. I was invested in this one. It was another one that I got invested in that I didn't necessarily think I was going to get this invested in, but I was really looking forward to that, Toronto versus Oilers final. And now, there's definitely not a guarantee on the Oilers making it to the final, but it would be cool. It would be cooler to see the Oilers beat Dallas and then the Oilers face the defending Stanley Cup champions, who they lost to last season, the Florida Panthers, in the Stanley Cup Championship Finals 2025-2026. That's going to do it for me, guys. Like the video, helps me out it probably helps me with algorithm stuff, I guess. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I'd love to have you. And as always, I will see you down in the comments.